I'm Frances Fremont-Smith, otherwise known in Chinese as Fan Wanzhen. I'm from America. I grew up in Boston, but I now live in Beijing, where I've been for now 10 years, but altogether about 36 years in China, having come here in 1978. In those days, there were very few opportunities to study abroad, but there was also an opportunity to study with the Yale China program in Hong Kong. So in 1978, I took the opportunity and spent a semester, my last semester in university, at the Chinese University of Hong Kong through the Yale China program. In those days, again, none of the universities were offering programs in China because diplomatic relations had not begun yet. But when I took the train to Luowu and crossed over the bridge into China, and the stark difference between sort of the flamboyant Hong Kong and then the China just after the Cultural Revolution, I felt in some ways that I had come home. I felt very much at home in the environment and was very motivated to learn more and to find out as much as I could about people's hopes and desires for the future, the new future that was coming to China. So when I finally got to Beijing and visited old family friends who had been with Chairman Mao and Yan'an, Americans, living on the Red Star Commune, Joan Hinton and Sid Angst, I was in awe of their experience, having spent 30 years in China through the revolution and working on dairy farms in China. And when they asked me if I'd like to stay, because I had just finished my coursework for university, I was thrilled, of course, and I was then hired by the Foreign Experts Bureau and sent to Changchun in Jilin province to teach English at a university, and excited to be somewhat of a pioneer heading off into the unknown of northeastern China in January 1979. And here I am with all these other professionals in the agricultural mechanization sciences industry, some that are coming from Eastern Europe. And here's my godmother, Joan Hinton, and her husband, Sid Angst. They use the old-fashioned sort of box cameras where the man dips down and puts the black cotton over his back, and then they do the panorama filming somehow in the old-fashioned way. I only had seen in the movies before that. This is 1980. Jia Lijun. And during that time, I was also doing extracurricular activities at another school where I was able to meet and eventually fall in love with my husband now of 32 years, Jia Lijun. And we were putting on a musical. It was sort of the first time that an American Broadway musical was being performed at a Chinese university. 1981, and The Sound of Music, and we spent about 6 months. I was directing the musical, and my husband was in it. He was Uncle Max. Of course, you know, you think back to 1981, and in terms of The Sound of Music, you have the captain and Maria, and they're falling in love. But in those days, to have a man and a woman get close to each other on stage was fairly taboo. So it was really sort of breaking down some barriers too, to be able to show this kind of emotion on stage. We're married in January of 1982. Our nice wedding album. This album is already 32 years old and it still plays. Well, the family gathering. In those days it was nice to go down to Wangfujing and have the professional photos taken. And this was our engagement party. And then here we have some newspaper articles announcing our marriage or getting married. English teacher in China is planning marriage. We applied for him to get a passport. We went back to the States, and we both went to graduate school. I went to the Harvard Graduate School of Education and got my master's degree, and my husband went to the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy and got his. His program was longer than mine, so when I graduated from Harvard, I was hired by one of the top boarding schools in the Boston area, Milton Academy, to start their Chinese program. This was an era in the mid-'80s, where funds were being given to schools to start Chinese language programs so more young people could understand and learn about China and be prepared for their future work life or diplomatic life. So I was very excited to be able to bring what I knew, my knowledge of China and Chinese language, to these young people, and I'm still friends with them today, many of whom live and work and have businesses here in China, in various cities across the country. I've been very lucky in my life getting job opportunities. They often are presented to me more than I have to go searching for them. And in this case, I got a phone call from a friend of mine, the president of the College of the Atlantic, who said he had a former colleague and they were looking for a China director for their program in China. And it turns out that it was a nonprofit foundation that had been running environmental programs in China for over 20 years, particularly in Tibet. They were instrumental in bringing Mount Everest into a national protected area, into a national park. And they worked on community development and healthcare trainings for local communities throughout Tibet. So I was hired to be their China director, and the family moved back to Shanghai. And then I was very lucky in the summer of 2013, just recently, to hear about an opening at the United Family Hospital. Has its own foundation, very forward-thinking private hospital. It's called the United Foundation for China's Health. And I joined the organization in the summer of 2013, in August of 2013, and I'm the executive director. This foundation works to provide medical intervention, both surgical, medical care, health care, to vulnerable populations in China. It was founded in 2001, primarily to provide surgeries and medical care for orphans and underprivileged children. We have a foundation clinic at our hospital, at Beijing United Family Hospital, where our medical fellows are seeing underprivileged people who otherwise do not have health care to be able to go to the local hospitals, and they are given their medical care for free at Beijing United Family Hospital through the auspices of our foundation. We also have a very fascinating program and forward-thinking program in remote diagnosis through a sponsorship with Cisco, and we are able to provide medical assistance to children in Sichuan province through this WebEx technology, which allows us to share medical information between healthcare facilities in remote areas of Sichuan and with our expert professionals here in Beijing. We have to see where our children settle. We have to see what the future brings. It's a very fast-changing world at this point in time, but there's no question that China will always be our home.